Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to learn about picklists and picklist dependencies. And what are picklist dependencies, why are they useful, and how do they help us keep our data consistent and ensure data integrity? Let's look. If I try to create a new student record in Salesforce, over here I can see there are a bunch of fields. So for example, I'll just give a name. And I can see that I have a lot of pick lists. I have gender, courses, country, city. But for now, let's focus on country and city. So in my country pick list, I have Canada, USA, and Mexico. Let's assume that in our educational institute, a student can only be from either of these three countries. So let's say we only enroll students who are either in Canada, USA, or Mexico. Now, if I were to choose Canada as the students as Joe's country, let's say Joe is from Canada, I've chosen his country, now I have to choose a city. These are the only cities, let's say, that we work with based on those three countries. So in Canada, I can see that we have Toronto, that is in Canada. We have Ottawa, which is also in Canada. Orlando, obviously, is not in Canada, it's in the United States. Chicago is not in Canada either. And Montreal is in Canada. Then we have Mexico City, Cancun, and these are in Mexico. So the point is, even though Joe's country is Canada, and now when I'm trying to pick a city for him, why am I seeing all these cities that are not even in Canada? Because it's not possible that Joe can be in Canada and Chicago at the same time. Like, this selection doesn't make sense. If Joe's country is Canada, then his city cannot be Chicago. The city needs to be something from Canada. Chicago is in the United States. So now that's a problem, right? So we need to make sure, and when the user is entering data, they can make a mistake. Maybe they chose Canada and they were selecting Montreal, but accidentally clicked on Mexico and then hit save. Now that's also a mistake that a user can make. Now this would really mess up the data, because if you run reports or something like that, you would see Joe falls in Canada and also falls under Mexico. So it'd be pretty complicated, right? Now what we wish to do is, we wish to update the city pick list based on which country has been chosen. So if I choose USA, I only want to see the cities that belong to the USA from this list, and I want to remove all other cities. That is what dependent pick lists allows you to do. Now, how does that work? So let's hit cancel here and go into setup, object manager. We will go into our student object because that's where our pick lists are. And then fields and relationships. Now this is where we can see our city and country pick lists both, right? Both are pick lists. And now we want to add that dependency that we were talking about. How do you do that? Simply click on field dependencies. And over here you can create new field dependency. Now you have to choose two fields, the controlling field and the dependent field. Now how do you decide which one's which? The controlling field will be the field that will be selected first, and based on that selection we want to update the other field. Now that other field will be the dependent one. So in our case, country is the field that we will choose first, right? And based on the country that has been chosen, we want to update the city field. So city becomes dependent and country becomes controlling. Hit continue. Now this over here on your first row, you can see countries, Canada, USA, and Mexico. So your column headers are basically the countries, right? Those are your first pick list values. And then down below, all the other rows basically contain the values from the city pick list field. Now, you simply have to choose which fields to be visible for which country. How do you do that? In this case, under Canada, I can see Toronto and Ottawa. These both are in Canada, so I'll choose Toronto. I'll simply click on it. Now I'll say include values. Then I will click on Ottawa. I will say include value. Then I'll go through the list to see if there's any other city from Canada, and yes, there is, Montreal. I will say include value. And no other city is from Canada, so these are all for Canada. So for Canada, these three should be included in the city. Now let's go to the next column, USA. For USA, we get to choose Orlando, Chicago, Seattle. So you can choose them one by one, or you can hit the Shift key on your keyboard and you can click on all three together and then say include values. And if you look all the way down, New York is also in the USA, so you include that as well. And all other cities, yep, none of these other cities are from the USA, so you can go to your next column for Mexico. So Mexico City is one, Cancun is another, and Cozumel is another. So there you go. These are the 3 cities for Mexico, these are the 4 for USA, and 3 for Canada. So that completes our pick lists, and that's how you add your dependencies. That if the country is equal to Canada, only show me these 3 cities. If the country is USA, only show me these 4 highlighted cities. Same for Mexico. Let's hit save. All right, now let's see our pick list dependencies in action. Simply, let's click new. And let's give the student name Joe. And now if you scroll down, you can see the city cannot be selected. So the city is grayed out. Why? Because you need to select your country first. So city is now dependent on the country pick list, which means that you have to first select the controlling field, which is country. Only then the city will become available. Let's choose Canada in this case. Now the city becomes available, and if we choose, we only see the 3 cities which belong to Canada. It's Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. Now if we update this to USA, you will see that the cities changed, and now we're seeing Orlando, Chicago, Seattle. Let's choose Seattle, and now let's try to hit save. So let's just write the full name, Joe Bennett.
Help us reach more enthusiastic Salesforce learners like you by liking and sharing this video. Cheers!